Hello, everyone. I think I have everyone muted, hopefully. Let me see. Let me stop screen sharing. Hello, President Meade. Hi, everybody. Let's see. All right, now let's screen share again. Look, we all learning this technology, so put it back on there. All right. Okay, just to kick off really quick, my name is Maura Rhodes. I am the class of 2013, and I will not go into deep detail. As you all see, there was a Facebook post. That's what it has led to. A statement was made, and now we are here. I'm going to kick it off by saying, eventually, doctors will find a coronavirus vaccine, but Black people will continue to wait. Despite the futility of hope for a cure for racism, we will live with the knowledge that a hashtag is not a vaccine for white supremacy. We live with the knowledge that still no one is coming to save us. The rest of the world yearns to get back to normal. For Black people, normal is the very thing from which we yearn to be free. From Roxanne Gay, remember, no one is coming to save us. I will send out the link later. Welcome, everybody. Cedar Crest alum. Let me stop sharing my screen a little bit. Faculty, staff, and current students, and everyone else who is attending. My name is Maura Rhodes again. I graduated in 2013. I had a blast at Cedar Crest with the people who I've attended with. I've met so many lovely people. Again, I cannot say I love my professors, the people who have taught me, and I'm grateful for where I am at now and how I move in my life. That is me. I have Jade Apston coming on, Rena Wallace, who has definitely helped us be a part of this. Dr. Theo Martin will be joining us later. She's just here to assist. I will push off the questions and then she'll be here to like back me up or anything like that. I'll go into detail about who she is later. And then we will have our very own President Meade speaking. Then that's introductions. Then I'm going to get into some impact statements from alum and former/current students and staff. And then we'll have President Meade address everybody. And then I'll kick off the questions / Dr. Martin. She is actually like in another meeting right now too. So she'll be chiming in back and forth, but she is tuned in.
I'm here now.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Perfect. So I told you a little bit about myself. I am going to give Jade, after I stop screen sharing, stop share. Jade, you can take it away.
No problem. Hello, everybody. My name is Jade Apston, and I'm class of 2012. I also was a professor at Cedar Crest from 2014 to 2016. During my time as a student, I was president of Black Student Union. I also helped with founding what used to be called the Multicultural Center, so I played a big part in that as well, and I had many other roles on campus as well, so I'm sure some of you are familiar with me. So thank you, Maura, for that.
Okay. Let's see, who do we have next? Is Rena on here?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Hi,
Good afternoon, everyone. Rena Pacheco, formerly known as Rena Wallace, graduating class of 2012. I received my Master of Public Policy degree at Temple University, and I currently work at the University of Pennsylvania. I've been a professional in higher ed for the last 7 years. And so when all of this was brought to light, I felt that it was important to really make sure that we were all informed and draft some information and questions.
One second, Rena. I do not know how to mute. Oh, I figured out how to mute everybody. So allow participants to continue. Okay, then now unmute yourself, Rena. Let me see if I did it right. Perfect, okay.
All right, so I'm looking forward to engaging with you all in some insightful discourse and dialogue, and I hope that we can all continue to bring attention to the important role of advocacy and what it could play in addressing the complex problem of racism. as it has manifested in institutions of higher ed. So I'm glad to be here today.
And now we'll have Dr. Theo Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Theo Martin. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization called All Aces, Inc. We specialize in working with organizations on reframing their understanding of what racism is, how it works, how it's impacting all of the people inside the organization and everyone outside the organization. And most importantly, really helping folks to figure out what are the practical, concrete actions that can be taken in order to move towards advancing racial equity and to continue to move in that direction. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all. So proud of Shamara and her advocacy and leadership, and so proud of all of you all for being here to have the kind of conversation that are usually catalyzers for the kind of transformational change that we need. So thank you.
And then from our very own President Meade.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to thank you for inviting me to participate in this really important event today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Meade. I've been the president of Cedar Crest for 3 years. I was the provost for 6 years before that. But I've been at Cedar Crest for 26 years, since 1993. So I recognize a lot of the names on the participant group. I have taught many of you, and it is just so important to me to be able to be here with you today and to engage in this important discussion. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Now we will have a couple of impact statements there. I felt this was important. A lot of current students were saying that they didn't have a voice, or that they possibly submitted, their reports and stuff like that, so they wasn't getting their voice heard. So right now, this is just like a couple of alum just sharing their experience, their overall experience. Not like we don't like Cedar Crest, because we love Cedar Crest. It's right here in my studio. I got the memorabilia right there. So this is not that. Is Antoinette on here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, perfect. We'll kick it off with Antoinette.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Antoinette Byers-Paredes. I am class of 2012. During my tenure at Cedar Crest College, I was part of student government. I started out as a senator, rose to become the social vice president. I was a resident assistant as well, a part of the speech and debate team, and an active member of the theater department. Currently, right now, I have a master's in social work. I was a social worker for 4 years, felt I needed to make a change, and now I am a special educator in New York City. I have my master's in special education and general education. I work with typically students who look like me, and I recently just started a organization or after-school program called Fearless Voices to empower students of color to racialize their voices and use them to make a change. I want to preface this with my statement that the most important thing in my statement is to live my truth. And if I'm honest to my truth, then even if someone may take it the wrong way, it is still important to live my truth. So if you will bear with me, this is my statement. Mind you, Shamara texted me like, hey, so hopefully it reflects what I need to reflect. As a teacher, I'm disappointed that as an institution of higher education, focused on empowering women, that we failed our students of color. How can we speak about creating a safe space for women, a place to be heard and to find their voice? To quote Virginia Woolf, for most of history, Anonymous was a woman. Throughout history, women's voices have been erased and even silenced. During my time at Cedar Crest, we were challenged to find our voices, to raise our voices, and demand to be heard as women. So isn't it ironic that when it comes to the voices of your students of color, past and present, voices that historically have been erased and silenced throughout history, these voices have been limited, erased, silenced, and otherwise utilized to promote a hollow, empty symbol of diversity within our community. We've been used to promote diversity for photo ops and behind the scene numbers. But when it comes to doing the hard work, to listening to those students and their experiences, to using culturally responsive educational practices within our lecture halls, to engaging in courageous conversations about the role of race in our community, we have been silent. But silent we will be no longer. In 2008, Cedar Crest College had a Black female president, President Ambar, and we were so proud. But just like President Obama's presidency has demonstrated, having Black and brown faces does not mean that racism has been erased. It does not mean that you are progressive or diverse if you don't act to create policies within your institution that support your students of color. If you only use your students of color at face value to show diversity, but you don't take a stand to address their experiences, to create culturally responsive classes and engage your staff and faculty in culturally responsive teaching practices, then you are saying that we are only photos to hang up or put on advertising materials for my beloved alma mater. When I was a student at Cedar Crest College, I had an experience with a professor in a required course of study. It was an Ethics 101 course, and please forgive me as I do not recall the exact course name. And I remember it taking my junior or sophomore year when we discussed issues within society, issues ranging from immigration to social welfare. The textbook that was required for the class was also written by the professor at the time, and in my opinion was racially outdated and biased. When discussing issues surrounding immigration, the text focused on immigrants of color, although immigrants came from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds. When speaking on welfare, the text was skewed using statistics based on solely urban communities that painted Black women as the largest population of welfare recipients. When I and several students of color voiced my discomfort with the text, we were reprimanded for taking it out of context, and the professor expressed that her feelings were hurt because of the implications of our statement, as she wrote the book. My professor, an intelligent, intellectual white woman who recently became our current president, was essentially telling me that as a Black woman, my opinion of the unfair narrative was biased and I was wrong. I needed that class to graduate, so I stopped speaking up and sharing my opinion along with other students of color. You see, at that moment, what my professor did not know, but what I knew and what I felt was that she didn't care about my experience, how it might make me feel as a student of color seeing this outdated text based on negative stereotypes. She didn't care about the message that I received as a Black woman. She was more concerned that she felt that I implied that she was racist. At that moment, I realized that my voice did not matter. It didn't matter when I was told my natural hair was unprofessional and it was suggested I wear a weave or a wig by another staff member. It didn't matter when students spoke negatively about people of color, but let me know that it was okay because they were not talking about me. I was different. Well, I will tell you now, my voice matters. As I sit before you, a teacher of young, impressionable minds, my voice has power. I have the power to show my students that no matter what, that their history is not rooted in oppression, but in academic success and social justice. I have the power to change their educational experiences by encouraging them to do one thing, to use their voices, to share their experiences, and in turn, to use that information to shape my teaching practices to be culturally relevant and powerful to them. And now, my alma mater, I ask you to do the same. I pledged you my best. And in your song and in our song, you promised to never fail me. And so as a member of the Forgotten, I am holding you to that promise. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. Antoinette, like AKA, you got. Do we have Fatima? Let me see, I gotta search. Okay, if not, we will move on. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, they would love to be here, but I know some of you all have little ones too, so we will have Jade reading impact statements from Momi, who is, I believe, still in another country right now, and there's a couple of other folks who are unable to join us. I'll swing it back to you, Jade. Do I have to unmute you? Oh, there we go. Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, I just unmuted you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You're fine. So, Mommy Cisse, she is actually back from Peace Corps. She did an extended year, but because of everything going on with the virus, she is back in New York City. Mommy Cisse was class of 2014. She was also former student government president, CCC board member. She was a Libertas recipient in 2014, and she is now a social worker. And like I mentioned before, she's a Peace Corps alum. This is her statement in response to the one that was released by the college. She said, "This is not acceptable. The information is there, Dr. Meade. For years, Black students, staff, and faculty have been telling our advisors and other authoritative members of the Cedar Crest community about these issues, all to fall on deaf ears. We've been telling you what it's like to navigate at that institution with Black skin. What is a form going to do for us after years of micro and macro aggressions? What is a reading list going to do for us after the years of trauma? You will never understand how many non-white students have had their lifelong dreams crushed by the people that you hire. You will never understand walking to your class and seeing the symbol of hatred that is the Confederate flag on belt buckles, bumper stickers, hats, and t-shirts. I was one of those students that was told by a senior staff member that she understands what it's like to be me because she's a lesbian. The previous president looked on my Black face and told me there was nothing she could do about the countless aggressions that us Black students felt on a daily basis. There needs to be a formal apology to us students for the trauma that we faced at the school. There needs to be a formal apology to the faculty members that have been blackballed in their field because of them speaking out against the racism they dealt with on that campus and trying to protect us. There needs to be many more resources and not just the form in a reading list, and the form of mandatory classes and training on microaggressions and racial injustice for every single staff, student, and faculty member that steps foot at that institution. This would only be the beginning. Do not continue to pacify yourselves. We are on the alumni page when it isn't Black History Month. We are not your tokens. The money that we pay is just as green and valuable as every other student that has been on that campus. You say you hear us, so show it. You say Black Lives Matter, so put some action behind it. Rectify your past wrongs, Cedar Crest. Will you still make this thing stand 3 months from now, 3 years from now? What vetting process will be put in place to ensure that your nursing students, I promise you I can name them, don't contribute to the already existing health disparities that plague the Black community? What vetting process will be put in place to ensure that your advisors don't continue to crush the dreams of Black students and other students of color? So the next statement is from Kaya Prime, whose class is 2016. And during her time on campus, she also was a multicultural center student worker. This is something that she wrote when she was a student there. An issue that took place about a Black student being expelled from school. And this is what she wrote during that time. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution grants all American citizens 5 inalienable rights: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom to petition, and freedom of assembly. These rights represent the core values of the Union and its people. But what are these rights if a culture of fear stands to suppress them? To answer this question, we must look at Cedar Crest College, an institution that markets itself as a place for young women to be educated and trained to become leaders. The campus, while calm and serene on the outside, has an atmosphere of student fear and doubt over the value of their voice and possibility of administrative backlash. And most friend groups complaining about the conditions that they dislike in commonplace. Most friend groups, but taking action is very rare. Students also feel as if their voices don't matter on campus, and some have even gone so far as to worry that their financial aid packages will be changed if they step out of line. There's never been a confirmed instance of this happening, but the fear of it still looms over the heads of students. Recently, a student-supportive Facebook page has undergone a major upheaval at the hands of prominent members of the Cedar Crest administrative staff. The change came in the wake of the sharing of a controversial Facebook page sharing the story of a recently expelled Cedar Crest College student wanting to share her story. The effect was instantaneous. Students began to argue on the post, and as the arguments became more intense, other students started chiming in. However, eventually, actual campus administration got wind of the situation and quickly had themselves added to the page as admins so they could delete the offending posts and state a set of rules for the page that was previously student run. During that time, Director of New Student Activities posted this on the page. As a friendly reminder, the Cedar Crest College Class of 2018 Facebook page is here for current students to ask questions about Cedar Crest and get important information about orientation. The administrators of this page reserve the right to remove content that does not match this description. Students in the aftermath of this expressed a feeling of helplessness and mistrust. One student, a freshman on the 2018 page who requested to remain anonymous, said, "I no longer feel comfortable expressing my opinions regarding the school. Deleting our comments and concerns, that is limiting our freedom of speech." Others have come to me privately and expressed similar views. The students feel as if their voices don't matter at all to the administration. A school molding and teaching the female leaders of tomorrow should certainly desire the opposite effect on their students. It speaks to a deeper issue in the campus culture that so many fear voicing their thoughts publicly, so much so that they never even make their opinions known beyond their friend group or a close confidant. Another student said it was wrong for them to delete it off the page. It was informing students about a wrongful expulsion, which every student on campus should know about. We are based on the belief here is that women helping women, however, by taking the support down for Brianna, it contradicted what the school supposedly stood for. So far, the school hasn't addressed the issue further than taking over the page, but the damage is already done. Students have lost trust in their own power and voice. A school meant to give leaders the strength to fly has crushed the spirits of many students in the freshman class almost irreparably. What's more, the student expelled, Brianna, was a swim team's star athlete. She had been expelled for a physical altercation in which a fellow student attacked her, and she'd been expelled naturally because she was defending herself. She and the other students were both expelled and forced to leave campus with a police escort midway through the semester. She didn't receive a refund on her tuition or a chance to appeal her decision. Everyone who knew her saw her as a kind, loving, and supportive friend. She was an amazing student, and even though she was an underclassman, people looked up to her and saw her as a positive role model. Despite her strong moral character and the love of her campus community, she was shut out, and her friends couldn't even speak out for her publicly. The school that swore to empower us had silenced us all. What's more, as a woman of color, she joined the ranks of other women of color expelled from the school without a chance to appeal. Excuse me. To my knowledge, the majority of students that have been expelled have been women of color. These women of color were already more heavily policed by their peers and professors and found themselves further policed by an administration that proved to not give a damn about beyond their money.
Thank you, Jade, for that.
Yep.
We have Rakia O2 on the call. Rakia, I'm going to unmute you, doll. Let's see. Rakia, let me know if you can hear me.
Sorry, I'm at work.
It's okay.
I'll be right with you guys.
Work.
Hey, hi everyone.
Got her press right on.
Hi everyone. My name is Rakio 2, class of 2015. Yeah, what else do you want me to introduce? What else do you want me to say, Shamara, before I get into other things?
Just let them know your sentiments, your thoughts about what's going on, how the screenshots, I don't know, whatever you have to say really quick before you start with.
Alrighty. Sorry. Okay. So I feel like there's a lot to say. So a big thing for me is I feel like I thought I was making some type of difference at Cedar Crest. It hurts when
you think that you've made friendships over 4 years with people, you've made connections with people, and you see them post just things against your race. That really does hurt. And because of my, I've been with these people, I've played tennis with these people, I've been in sports with these people, we've been in each other's room, we've talked, any questions they had, even if it was derogatory, like you know, maybe the way they said it, or just anything they wanted to know, I didn't take it to heart. I would just answer it. I never took offense to anything. I always kept it cool, but I saw how it did affect me, but I saw how it affected my friends also. And they would feel some type of way, and I would tell them, you know what, they're not used to being around people of color. And I feel like I made a lot of excuses for them. So I understand where the frustration and hurt comes from a lot of people, because yeah, you feel like you've answered questions, you've talked to these people, you've been around them, you feel like maybe they you know, their views are a little differently, but it hurts when people tell you that their parents wouldn't accept you or accept your family being around them, or being disinvited from people's weddings because their family wouldn't feel comfortable. Those things really hurt. It really does, because I never expected that. I felt like even at Cedar Crest that we had learned so much, APO, being a part of Alpha Phi Omega, things like that. But just to still see these things, and it hurts. It's as simple as
Yeah.
that. It just hurts.
I will share a story from Shanae Hurt. Let's see. Let me put you back on mute. All right, so this is from Shanae Hurt, former student and volleyball player. I just wanted to reach out and share my story as to why, about their experience in sports. I played volleyball my freshman year, and we had a team building get together the day before our Think Pink game, which was a dinner at someone's house. Everyone was waiting for dinner to be ready. I'm not going to say their name. The other Black player, myself, and 2 other players were in their living room watching a Penn State volleyball game. Like I said, we were waiting for dinner to be ready. The 2 other players said they were going to talk to the rest of the team. The other Black student and I decided to watch the rest of the game, so we stayed in the living room. A little while later, the other student and I got called into the room. The rest of the team was in, and we see everybody else had already eaten. And the only reason they had called us was because they wanted a couple of photos with the whole team. We were so hurt. The next day, we were so sad and quiet. Everyone kept asking us what was wrong and trying to take pictures with us. We ended up crying before the game started and told 2 of the other players what happened. They said they were going to tell the rest of the team on our behalf, but I don't think that conversation ever happened. I wanted to enter, let's see, enter in this conversation now, just to give like a debrief before we kick off the questions and everything like that. I know we just heard a lot of stories. Some of y'all may be shocked. Some of y'all may not be, excuse me, let me slow down, may not be surprised. So I had took like a brief moment for President Meade to respond, just anything. So it's not just like, here's all this like, woof, woof. We don't want to like overwhelm. We want to take a break. We want this to be a dialogue. If you have any comments or any questions, I'll say more so questions in the comments. If you have any questions, you could put them in the comment box, in the chat box. Definitely, this is we want this to be open. We are all attended Cedar Crest College. We are all family now at Cedar Crest College. So I want us to be flow. And I want to be invited to weddings and stuff like that, and be comfortable and hire me as a DJ, yes. But with that being said, if President Meade, if you have anything, if you want to say right now before we jump into the questions, I don't know, somebody is saying something?
Before that, Yeah, that's.
Oh, Jade, sorry, yes. I'm like, oh,
There is one more statement.
sorry,
That
me
was,
in my video.
yeah. There was one more statement that was submitted last, and this is from a former faculty member, and I wanted to touch on this because not only is it about the students, but also how faculty and staff, Black faculty and staff, but also people of color are treated. And so there was a statement from Dr. Yamaguchi, who used to teach in the communication department, and this is what she wanted me to share. With the momentum of Black Lives Matter protests happening across the country, now is the time for Cedar Crest College to actively change and immediately develop initiatives to support and celebrate diversity, as well as confront their past of silencing people of color and of diverse genders and sexualities. Listen to the needs and concerns of your POC students. I will always treasure my memories at CCC. I met and befriended a lot of great people. It was hard being one of the few POC faculty. There is a lot of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps when certain faculty outside of the comm department try to get your classes canceled, or you hear from multiple faculty and staff that certain people are jealous of you. Racism is not limited to people who provoke violence or hate speech. It is also when one does not want to work side by side or for a POC. I experienced moments at CCC where I felt some faculty may have shown interest in student body diversity, but may not actually want to work side by side with POC. As a junior faculty member during that time, it was difficult to determine, is it just me or is it racism? With very few other POC faculty, it was difficult to feel supported and speaking out. Seeing how numerous universities, including the one I work at now, have multiple levels of support of POC faculty and staff, I see that the absence of support is one of the ways the lack of inclusion is institutionalized at CCC. I love this college and it aims for leadership. Let's see it happen with initiatives not only celebrating diversity, but also dismantling white supremacy.
Thank you, Dr. Yamaguchi / Professor Jade / Jade alum. Sorry, I like to make jokes. I just want this to be a lighting. I don't want this to be tense. Like, I know the video may have not presented like, you know, but if you meet me in person, you know, I just definitely mean well. Again, I love Cedar Crest. So now we will see, President Meade, do you want to respond to this or wait to the question portions? But so.
Yeah, I thank you so much for that opportunity. And obviously, this is a situation where I feel very privileged and humbled that you were willing to share your stories. I listened to them with great humility and recognition of the power of you speaking your truth, as you started off by saying, Tony. So I'm not going to try to make a statement. I wish there was something I could do to help take away some of the pain. There isn't, but I can do something to lead the institution forward. During the question and answer portion, I'm happy to talk both about what I've done in my presidency to date and what discussions I've been having with the board chair really since the power of these protests and the power of alumni voices have been heard. But I would prefer not to make any kind of a statement. I don't have anything to add in the way that your powerful voices have been heard. But I will be open and answer anything that you want to know from me.
Thank you, President Meade. And really quick, before we jump into the action items and what we are thinking and suggesting to move forward, we would like to have Lynnie Maura Johnson share a few words. I hope I said your name correctly, so please correct me if not. Let me know. Let's see. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in the car. I am a graduate from the class of 2008, and it's really important that we take a moment to hold Cedar Crest accountable. I'm all about fun and games and interacting and sharing and learning from each other, but it's time for action. It's not about just having this conversation and making it seem that everything is okay. I love Cedar Crest. I love my experience, but I'm tired. I had to do so much to be on every single day to make sure I was seen, because people would say, why do all the Black girls sit together? Well, how about you ask yourself, why do you look at them that way? Why are you not speaking to them? So many people would not engage because of their own ignorance, because of their own scared backgrounds, that Cedar Crest wasn't able to step up to the plate. I loved my experience through community service, through the Lux Center, and participating in APO, well, both actually. But I was an orientation assistant. I did everything I could possibly do at Cedar Crest to be seen and valued. And it still wasn't enough. It is time to have more faculty of color, to call on your alumni who so painfully want to participate. I had dreams of working at Cedar Crest, and every year it just made more sense to not go back because I knew I wasn't valued in the way that I thought I was. And perhaps it was just my money, perhaps it was the fact that I was a great advertisement to use my face, but now you're going to use my words. Now you're going to see me. As an alumni, you have my money. There's nothing else to do, but we deserve better. Every single student deserves to be better. I'm not here to fluff it up like I would have done when I was a student. So if this is alarming to you and you're concerned about my well-being, check your own privilege and check your own comfort. Because if we stop it now, it's only going to continue. So let's not do the passive game. Let's create action. There should be more people of color. We're in Allentown. Allentown is not what Cedar Crest looks like. So why are we not out there doing more? Utilize Tammy Bean. Utilize her education and her experience to get back into the community, to foster more communication with the people of Allentown. I'm from Georgia, and I'll tell you what, my first experience of racism was coming to Cedar Crest. So sit on that for a second. I grew up in the Deep South with parents who are interracial lesbians. And the first time I experienced racism, firsthand, direct, not the passive aggressive racism, but direct racism was when I came to Cedar Crest. I'm in the area, and I will continue to advocate, and I will continue to push the boundaries because other alum, other faculty, other staff, other students, and future students deserve better. I can't go out to these classrooms and do my community service work and then hear students say, I want to go to Cedar Crest. I can't look at those students at the Boys and Girls Club and community bike work and say, you're going to fit right in, it's going to be great. But we should be able to say that. So I implore you to utilize the students that are here, the alumni that are here, and the faculty who have come and gone to help you do better. Because it is time. It is absolutely time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I love the representation from all the different class years because I've never met you in my life. So it's like, I know I've heard your name. So thank you for sharing that. That's just like literally almost everybody on here. But I'm glad like we're all family. We should have this conversation. We should be open. We shared meals together. We did sports together. We went on trips together. I never been to Philly before. Okay, before we start this real quick, I came to Pennsylvania calling Philly and Pennsylvania two different things. Like, I don't know why, like, I know I'm smart, but for some reason, I just like kept associating two different, but stuff like that, the people from Philly, like, no, it's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, like it's one, like, we're one. I know, you're like, what, smart? Anyways, to get this started, let me share our screen again. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's that one. So,
Shamara.
yes. Sorry.
It's okay. Do you want me to say something after this?
You could.
After the screen share?
No, you could do it there. Yeah.
I'm following your lead, my dear.
Okay.
You're in charge right now. I'm following your lead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to wait till afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, this was like the original when the Forgotten created the document. These were the action items that we sent out. And this is the responses from the diversity team that we got that's highlighted. And then here highlighted in yellow, let me be more specific, is the response from the diversity team. Highlighted in blue and orange is like my responses, the Forgotten team's responses. I'll say questions for doctors, professors, everybody's on this call, President Meade, for this. So I was going to do it step by step, go one through, we only have a few action items. So we initially said, create mandatory freshman and incoming student courses dedicated to racism, diversity, and LGBTQ issues. And then on a byline of that, assess what current courses addresses racism, race, ethnicity, and diversity across the college. Is it possible for a student to graduate from Cedar Crest without ever having to critically talk about race? How is interracial, intercultural composites part of the college's curriculum? So the diversity team's response, they sense what they have been doing, ensuring all staff will have participated. That's like what I had said. We had said in diversity training, letter designed by a person of color. So I don't want to say the word apparently, but apparently this is what has been going on. There's diversity modules by a staff faculty training group and led by the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. It's have been mandated to all of the staff, including the cabinet and all non-adjunct faculty. The provost created, I'm sure you can read, so I'm just going to skip over some. The provost office created a task force in summer 2019, and a detailed guide on how to revamp the search process for faculty was created, which included the creation of diversity advocates in each search committee, training on hiring and implicit biases, and a broad approach to seeking candidates, among many other recommendations. Training was provided to diversity advocates and department chairs, and all faculty were invited to participate in February 2020, which was not too long ago. Our question to you, President Meade, and faculty, if you want to answer the questions as well too, how many faculty signed up and what training have they had? Are there any faculty of color in this group?
Sure, I can start by addressing some of that. So I will start by saying that we have many failings in this regard, and the biggest failing that I have been talking to, well, that as a campus we've been talking about, is the fact that we continue to have a very diverse student body and much less diversity on our faculty. And so the reason behind the 2019 task force, which was came out of the provost's office, but was really primarily driven by faculty, was to figure out why we just had been failing at hiring faculty of color. It had been the intention, but of course we went about it without the tools to do so. And so that really ran through last year. We currently have 4 faculty of color at Cedar Crest, which is an abysmal proportion. It's a doubling of where we were 2 years ago, but that's, twice a small number is still a very, very small number. There are 2 kinds of trainings that are talked about in that answer. One is the diversity and inclusion training, which every staff member and every faculty member of Cedar Crest is required to go through. That's been going on this will be the 3rd year coming up, and we have a very, very high level of compliance on that. I think Tatiana Diaz is on the call, and she might have the records, because we've also folded it into our performance evaluation process, and part of every discussion with a staff member at performance evaluation time is whether they have gone through this mandatory training. The other training that's referred to in that answer is training a diversity advocate to work with search committees to ensure that search committees are as free as possible from implicit bias, and that we're following best practices for hiring a diverse workforce. The first element of that training was provided to all faculty who attended one of our 2 annual faculty workshops. Training after that has been, to some extent, voluntary. If you would like to be trained, then that training is made available. I don't have the data, and the provost is not on the call, as to which faculty have gone through the entire gamut of training. I will say, though, that it was through last year, I think as a result of the work of this working group, that we did bring on 2 additional really wonderful new faculty of color into Cedar Crest. And in my recent search for a new vice president for enrollment management, we did use a lot of the materials that were developed by that search group. And I think it really did make a huge difference in terms of the pool of candidates and our ultimate hire. And so I was very impressed with what the work of the working group did. And I think it's going to really help us diversify our faculty in particular. Our staff has become more diverse every single year, but I think it's been effective.
There's a couple of questions, so I definitely want this to be open. I could just go straight down to action items, but these are actually should be addressed. Slow down really quick so I can go to the other two in the chat. This is the one I wanted. If the training is mandatory, then how is it possible for it not to be taken?
Sorry, there's two trainings. The mandatory training is the diversity and inclusion training that was, that, as I said, Tatiana could speak to if she wanted to. That's mandatory training. It's voluntary to train to be a diversity advocate for search committees. Our hope is that over time, every faculty member, because most faculty participate in search committees, everybody will be trained. But the idea was to start by training those who really had a passion for the work and who wanted to get involved.
I'm going to skip around from Theo Martin, class of 2011. How are those 4 faculty members going to be retained? How does the college plan on supporting their employees of color?
Yeah, great question. So the question of retaining faculty and staff of color is a huge one. It's one that we've struggled with and failed at. And so the approach that I have been taking, and I'm very happy to have feedback on it, has been to work with the presidents of the other institutions in the Lehigh Valley who also struggle to retain their diverse faculty. We talk about this all of the time, and to create intentional communities of practice and support and programming to help the faculty of color at all of the institutions find a community. I've seen this way of providing support be effective. I've also seen it not be effective. It was a specific goal of the LVAC. Some of you know the Lehigh Valley Association of Independent Colleges as that forum where you can cross-register for courses. I know a number of you did that, but it also has done a great deal more in terms of faculty development, staff development. Some of you may have been involved in it bringing groups of diverse students together, of adult students together, different communities. And so that's been the approach. Last year it was meant to be the major focus, and I will say it crowded out by other things.
Trying to keep out the questions. Let's see. How many presidents you may or may not notice from LVAC schools are of color? Because white people leading the movement is not enough. How do you plan on addressing the use of that not culturally responsive text that you have supported in the past? How do you plan on ensuring that courses use more diverse texts and more culturally relevant texts within their educational practices?
Sure, there's a lot of questions there.
Right, that's why I was like, it's coming.
Yeah, I will say currently all of the presidents of the LVAC institutions are white. When we started the focus on how to retain faculty of color, one was African American. That was President John Williams of Muhlenberg. He did leave in this past year. And so, yeah, absolutely. There is something profoundly problematic about a group of white people trying to lead change. And I agree with that 100%. But I need to do the best that I can for the institution. I think the other set of questions that I'm hearing being raised have to do with the curriculum. And I think that the criticism that our curriculum does not in any overt, systematic, or effective way reflect the experiences of people of color in this country is 100% correct. correct. And I would very much like to see curricular revision at Cedar Crest to ensure that that is done. We did have a task force on diversity and inclusion in 2016. That was one of the recommendations, but I will tell you very frankly that no movement has resulted from it. The curriculum is really under 100% control of the faculty. I know many of the faculty are here today, and I am certain they'll join with me in saying that that's an area where we can have a real impact, and we should begin that work. Absolutely.
I'm gonna, Tatiana, I'm going to let you in after I share the screen with this next statement. So I know you're in here. You was in there, so you can come on. So 1 second, let's see. All right, gonna go back to this. We put creating more events for students of color to feel welcomed at Cedar Crest College or getting input. Their response, with the help of 5 student inclusion advocates and 1 part-time graduate. Personally, so I'm going to be transparent, how I respond to Tatiana, when it comes to stats, you can do a lot of stuff with statistics. I do appreciate the events at Cedar Crest, but then that's why I wanted her to come and speak on to this portion right here, because me being formerly at Cedar Crest a few years ago, I know these numbers look good, but then it's like, I know for a fact you can have like, an event with 4 people and then it's 3 people of color in a room. And that's like, what, 3/4, like 75%, attendance. So when it comes to the stats, it's not, we're not looking for stats. We're looking for more events. Like how can we do, I don't know, there was a multicultural center. I don't know what the names change so often everywhere. And now it's like the diversity, and that's like across the college.
Diversity and inclusion.
Right. Okay. There we go. Tatiana, how you doing?
Hi.
So if you wanted to speak to what you sent, again, I'm gonna be transparent. I responded back and I said, this is past you because you were not here when most of the stuff was going on, but you are currently present now. So what can we do in the future? But then there's alumni too, alum of color. When we come back to reunion, to me right now, this is a reunion. I can't wait. Honestly, before everybody ends, I'm gonna take a nice picture, but like, all right, this is our reunion. But for reunion, where's the space at? It's like you're still going back into the same environment. And I'm pretty sure the attendance rate for people of color going to the reunion is not that high. I don't think, I'm sorry, I just end up DJing half the time, but I have yet to attend a reunion as much as I want to. And I don't think that it's like a welcoming space. It's like once students of color leave, we're not coming back to Allentown. There's no reason to. And that's not a good thing. Like, like we want to come back. There's a space. I go back because I still got friends there and I'm going to visit, but then I'm going to still drive right around to college. I'm not going to come up. Well, I haven't did that yet. I'm just saying, I haven't did that yet. So that's stuff. I would love to come visit. But when it comes to events, there really is not. So this is Tatiana Diaz. You can introduce yourself. We got many class years on here. So let them know who you are.
Hi, everybody. And thank you, Shamara and The Forgotten, for letting me just say a couple of words. My name is Tatiana Diaz. I'm the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the college, and I've been part of the community for the last 4 years. So I just finished my 4th. And as I shared with Shamara, I'm like deeply moved that in a moment of just truly hurt in our communities, you have taken the time to come back to Cedar Crest and a community that made a difference to all of you and say, we want you to change, because I know that we are hurting, and for you to say, but we want you, this particular community, to take steps, that says a lot about your experience and about what you hope for this. So thank you. Shamara, thank you for, and regarding the numbers, and I agree with you, statistics and statistics, and we could shape statistics in different ways, but I do want to share, there were a lot of questions about the modules, which are the mandatory pieces of the college. the training for the college. So what we have done was, with the data from the bias reports that was collected in the first year that I was employed at Cedar Crest, 2006, 2017 bias reports, we were able to identify the main areas where Cedar Crest at the moment, and for what was reported, we were in deep need. So there was a call for staff and faculty to create a group that would help us create some modules that would be Cedar Crest specific, that would help us start to address some of the bias incidents within our community. So that's how, like, we're taking some of the information we've learned, we're trying to apply it. We created 4 modules. It's our community, which is a basic, it's meant to be the basic one where we start to talk about and make the case of, like, this is why we need to have the conversation about diversity and inclusion in our college. This is our community, to our students. This is why we cannot be silent. And these are some of the resources, including the bias response team and process, that you all should know about. We also have a implicit and conscious bias training. We also have a cross-cultural communication training, and we also have an LGBT and supporting transgender students training. All of those are meant to be mandatory. What we did, because we wanted to make sure that everybody did them, and not in a, let's fit 400 people or 200 people in a room and give them one training where they don't get to have an interaction with the material. What we did was we intentionally created modules that were no larger than 35 people, where people could get together and really be participants in the modules. Who created the modules? It was the team. Currently there are 2 individuals who identify as people of color, me included. And we go back to the fact that our numbers for staff and faculty are extremely low. And so we rely on both our white allies and the people of color that want to engage in this conversation as trainers to do that. So we have a group of about 6-7 individuals. They are staff and faculty. Some identify within the LGBT community. Some, as I said, identify as people of color. We are currently in trying to, because 4 modules is just a start, and they are meant to be just a start, right? And so we're currently already working on a module 2.0 so that we can continue as a community to do this. We also, I was trying to read some of the comments, and we definitely are working on trying to make sure that the bias too that is going to be created is meant to be focused on race. I actually have been working, and we had this conversation yesterday with the trainers who are leading that process to make sure that we kind of fast forward that and try to start hopefully in the fall with that one. Regarding our events, the numbers are big, right? Because some of the events that we do are large. So like we do a 2-hour introductory session with all of the first-year students during orientation. How we're gonna do that this year will be amongst COVID-19, I'm not sure, but that's a big number with 200 people. We also have been doing, one of the questions was whether we collaborated with Alumnae. We continue to have Bridging the Gap conferences in the fall, which is meant to be a racial justice conference. So we do that with Alumnae. With that one usually has about 70 students from across campuses. We have the LGBT conference with Alumnae in the spring that also usually has about 70 students. And our events definitely vary, right? Like we have large events, but we also have events where we only have 2 or 3 students. Some of those students are students of color, some of their students are white. So as our numbers show. I will say that one of the challenges of our numbers is that they're self-reported. So when students come to the events, they're giving an evaluation and they tell us and they self-disclose. And that is the data that we currently have. I'm not sure if I answered all of the questions, but let me know, Shamara, if there's a need for anything else.
I'm just, I got all the information. I got y'all responses. So now this is just like, I'm sharing it back out to the world. I didn't want to just like, hey, this is what I got sent the stats. So I definitely wanted you to share your role. So thank you for that. But if anybody has any questions, they're in the comment box, but I kind of want to move it along. I know we only got a brief time. I do have a limited Zoom hours, but I have to get on another call at 3. Let's see.
And I will say, if anybody has questions about the numbers, they would like to see more detail, I'm happy to share that with people. So
you put your information, is it possible in the chat box?
Sure.
Okay.
And Shamara, I just need to remind you, I do have another meeting at 2:30.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had told you that ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't want to walk out on a conversation that's important, okay?
Nope, because I'm going to split the screen right back. And this is what Rena had shared with us, with everybody. Let's see which one's it. Okay, so I'm going to switch over. I had, before I start sharing that, I did address the security, and because I definitely do not want that to get bypassed at all. Security has been called on students of color a lot. And me personally, I don't know if there's a database or something like that, but that needs to be looked at. It's definitely injustice to us on that campus to be that small. My personal experience, even though they shared this story, because that was one of the things we wrote in the Forgotten before we get to the call for action that Rena wrote, that is, it's not okay. I can name, I don't know how many fingers I have to put up that campus security has came to my room because we're laughing. And I only roomed with people of color. I don't know, people on the campus know me with Kristen, but Connecticut, she's white, but she doesn't get, that's my buddy. But like, she still got grouped in with everybody. So there's stories after stories after stories after stories. It's not just like made up. And you know me since I was a freshman there. I don't know what has to be addressed about that, but something has to be addressed about that, because that's why we're here in the state of mind. We're in a national world as we are right now. A state of emergency, I'll say. A national emergency against Black people. Then on the flip side, I don't want to bypass, there are private comments in the chat box, the ethical, kind of bypass that. There is the book that you have created. I'm just going to be straight out with this, so I am transparent, and people are contacting me. The book that that was mentioned, because some other folks have chimed in privately, and I will not out them. The book was a little outdated, we'll say, during the time. So you personally are the head. You see, we're looking at you right now. I don't know how to ask the question about the book because that's personal. That's your work. I'm not like, I don't want to.
I can ask it.
Okay.
So since I brought it up,
you're not the only one though. That's the thing. But I'm glad. Okay.
I agree. I also, after I had made my statement, several people, which saddened me, came to me in my personal inbox to say that they had that same experience with you. And I want to clarify, I'm not saying that you're not a nice person, nor is this statement referring to your perceptions of people of color. But my statement is, as you are now the president of our college, you have in the past, maybe unknowingly, maybe accidentally, silenced voices of color because of the text that you use, because of your position of power as an educator. We came to you and looked up to you for our education, and yet we were silenced. And I say we because so many people just sent me a message, and it's sad. And now that you are our president, how are you going to work to rectify that? How are you going to work to make sure that instead of silencing and not hearing us, that you are speaking up, not just for one student, but for all of your students that you represent? Because you are represented by students who are white, by students who are Black, by students who are Muslim, by students who are gay, by students who are transgender, by students who are Latinx. This is your community. And I understand that you come from a different background, but how are you going to make sure that you continue to empower our voices and you hear us and don't silence us, whether unintended or not?
Sure, thank you. And I guess I can start with the textbook that I wrote and put together at the request of the college, which absolutely you are all 100% correct, got out of date very, very quickly and was not updated. And in part as a result of that, has been discontinued. It hasn't been used for many years now. And, that is, one of the difficulties of using published material to talk about current events, because I'll tell you at the age of nearly 60, 10 years ago seems like last week to me. And so the trying to keep material up to date is a challenge I was absolutely not up to for a number of reasons. And so the course which is still taught is doesn't use that textbook, and I think it's probably been nearly 10 years now since it's been used. I think that's right, but somebody might be able to correct me, because we stopped using it while I was still teaching it, and I've been in administration for about 8 years, so maybe it's 8 years. And so, but I think, the larger question about not silencing voices is the important one, right? There's no point to my saying I did it accidentally, it was inadvertently, I had the best of intentions. That doesn't matter, right? Because silence is silence, and however you're silenced is wrong. And so the question about what we do to ensure hearing student voices is the important one. So I'll talk a little bit about what I've done. I'm not making a claim that it's adequate, and I will certainly listen to current students and alums about how I can do better. Since I have been president, I have had open office hours every week when I'm on campus every week. I'm not on campus all of the time. They have been used extensively by students. One of my ways to not unintentionally silence students is to establish a policy that nobody needs to tell a gatekeeper why they need to see me. Nobody needs to explain to my assistant what they want to talk to the president about. All they need to do is say that they need time with me, and they have had time with me. I do keep, for my personal use, records of who comes, what they have come to talk to me about, and what my follow-up has been. There are things I cannot fix, but I never let anybody leave without some either direct referral to who can help them if it's not me, or at the very least advice on where to go next. Students of color have been frequent users of these office hours, and really have come to talk about a wide range of material. It said I keep that privately because there are identifiers, and I don't think it's right for me to publish that, but I'm willing to listen to that. The other thing that I have done is we do have a student diversity council on campus, which is comprised of the leaders of all of our student identity organizations. I meet with them. It's been once a year, although I'm always willing to meet with them more frequently. I encourage them to bring me their concerns, what they would like to see happen, how they're feeling about it. We have it in the president's residence so that they're not, I hope, impacted, again, inadvertently by the sort of trappings of office. And let me give you an example of one of the things that came out of that. One of my first meetings, they came to me with a proposal that they felt very, very strongly about for the use of identity stoles at graduation. A former provost had made the policy that only academic honors could be recognized at commencement. They asked me to reconsider that and to allow stoles for all kinds of identities. And I listened to that. It wasn't what I was inclined to do if I could arrange the world to my liking, but I recognized the importance of it, and it happened at that very year's commencement. That was last year's commencement. So we had a beautiful array of identity stoles. They were recognized formally at our baccalaureate ceremony, and that would have again happened this year in May had the virus not intervened. It is of overwhelming importance to me that students feel they have a voice, that it is heard, and that they see when action is taken. I can't promise that everything everyone wants to see happen will happen at all or happen immediately. What I can say is that I hear, and I take what I hear into my work, into the cabinet, into the board of trustees, and we will do a better job of acting on the student voices that are heard.
Thank you, President Meade. At this time, I would like to have Dr. Theo Martin join us. If you look in the chat box, I have her website there, so feel free to look up the website and all the work she does. I think she will be a brilliant resource to many of you all in the future now. So book her. But Dr. Martin, this is, oh, you can mute yourself. Okay, yeah.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I'll keep this brief as an external member or external observer of your community. So first, thank you for allowing me to be here in this space while you're having such a vulnerable and open conversation. The second thing I want to say is my organization does work across the world. We do work in the United States, in other countries. And one of the things that's consistent that we see is that there really is no strategy for how we're actually going to advance racial equity in the larger context of diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And it's really important to be explicit with the types of oppression that we're talking about because they're so nuanced. And because when we talk about the disparate impacts that students are experiencing, there's actually a big lesson based on the research and based on our experiences that I want to make sure I raise up in this conversation. The first is that anytime you have people who are part of underestimated groups, whether it's people of color, whether it's our LGBTQI plus brothers and sisters, any underestimated group, anytime there's a pattern of disproportionate burden that they're experiencing in any context, it's actually smoke, and it means that there's a fire, and that fire indicates where the broken places are in the organization, right? Whether it's the students, whether it's faculty, it's an opportunity to swim upstream to see how the way things are structured, the processes, the culture is creating an environment that is passively conducive to oppression. So it's not a interpersonal situation, right? It's easy to focus on individuals. It's easy to try to train individuals up to kind of be more, to act as disruptors. The challenge becomes organizations actually have to create the environment for to be disruptive, right? And so I can come in as a person of color who, you know, is having these experiences, and I bring it to folks who have the ability to shift things. And in that instance, what I'm really communicating, and this is important for organizations. What I'm really communicating is, because of racism, I am having this experience, right? And the experiencing I'm having is really tied to these problems with the organization. And so, although I'm disproportionately bearing the burden of the problem is actually impacting all of us in ways that are usually hidden because we think about everything in such a binary way, right? We have all these false dichotomies. Well, that's a Black experience, that's a Latinx experience, whereas the reality is there is no issue that is only about one group of people. So for example, when we're talking about law enforcement, right? Police brutality disproportionately burdens Black and brown people, especially Black men. So we know that to be true. The issue isn't Black people. The issue is police brutality. The issue is over-militarization. The issue is abuse of power and authority. And that's the problem. And so it's important for us to be able to swim upstream to the actual problems and take ownership in systems and in organizations to be able to really think about, not just hear people, right? Because I know that as leadership, President Meade, it can be really challenging because number one, it's lonely. And number two, it seems like you're supposed to have all the answers, right? Like you have to have all the answers. And in reality, like that's not the case, right? In reality, no one person has all the answers. In reality, in order for a leader to make the best possible decisions that with all of the available information, that means we actually have to tap into the resources of that available information, the context experts, which are your staff and all of the students who've taken time out their day to be here with us. They're really the folks who can give insight into the deeper understanding of how people are experiencing these things, so that again we can swim upstream to what is the root cause of the problem. We know the root cause is racism for the disproportionate burden, but what is actually broken in the organization that is causing these outcomes, right? And so there are systematic analysis that every organization can do to look at what is it that my mission, vision, values, my strategic language communicates symbolically about my commitment to equity. But that's not enough, but that needs to be there, right? What is it about the way we're structured that is either facilitating inequities or a barrier to equity for our students, for the community, for professors? And so I really encourage there to be kind of this more systemic analysis using organizational development approaches that really look at all of the layers of the organization, how decisions are made and who has the ability to participate in certain decisions. When do those decisions involve students? At what point? Throughout, how do we make sure it's throughout the process and that there's accountability? Where are the resources invested? So if we're doing equity initiatives, and I'm using equity intentionally because diversity is not enough, and inclusion, has unfortunately, the researchers who use the word inclusion mean it differently than how it's talked about in common conversations. So I'm using equity intentionally here. So I think there are huge opportunities to also look at where the resources are being invested in equity work for the organization. So it's the pipeline coming in, how do we increase diversity? But once people get here, how do we make sure that they have an experience from beginning to through transition and staying connected to the organization, both employees and the broader community of students in a way that is equitable, right? In a way where we're respectful of their experiences, their thoughts, to really inform the decisions that we're making. Without that context, it's really hard to take action. And so, the reason I brought up your leadership and that loneliness as a leader and feeling like you have to have all the answers is because you alone can't be the place where kind of everything gets funneled to, right? That's a burden that no one human being can kind of take on and really be effective, right? Because you're just one person and you have a lot of responsibilities. And so what are the processes that can be in place that are really an opportunity for to maybe build on the bias team that you have to revamp that program so that there's actually a process beyond people just reporting stuff. But how do we make sure that we're repairing relationships? How do we make sure we're making people of color whole out of these experiences, and really centering their voices, because again, it's not about saving people of color or doing all these special things just for people of color or Black people. It's really about how to make sure our organizations are effective and successful. And if we're doing that well, if we're doing it right, then actually we're creating environments where everyone wants to be there, right? If people of color don't want to be there, there's probably a lot of other people who are not people of color who don't want to be there either, because the oppression, the way oppression works and how it creates these environments of conformity and, you know, single-mindedness in terms of what's acceptable and not acceptable. So I just offer those things as you're having these conversations to transition from more of a transactional type of thinking in terms of, well, we need to fix these things as people are bringing them up, and think more about how can we develop a strategy to do this work across the whole institution in partnership with students, in partnership with staff, because unfortunately, in equity, especially racial equity, has never happened by accident. It's never happened by hopes or intentions. It's always been a very intentional, concerted effort over a long period of time. And so I hope that is helpful. I appreciate the students and their leadership and their bravery in being here and not just speaking their truth, but advocating for themselves, which is really hard to do in the context of you know, being in the few, right? And so thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And thank you, Shamar, for inviting me. I am going to be hopping off in 10 minutes, but happy to support in any ways that I can.
They're trying to book you in the comments, so I am grateful for you. Thank you, Dr. Martin. You know, I'll tell you that all day. President Meade, I am grateful for you for listening. Jade is going to close this out, and if you have anything else, please, let's all stay connected on the alum page. Let's stay connected all in general. This does not stop right now. There are action steps that we are holding Cedar Crest accountable for. Rena has sent them to the school as well. So I'm sure at this point, everybody has got it. I will post it in the comments so we can just keep flooding the emails, and somebody, this does not stop here. Jade Abston, let's see if I can zoom this out. Where are you at?
I'm right here.
Okay, nice. All right.
All right. So once again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here and listening to everything. And I just want to say, I know Tony mentioned like the school has had the blueprint, I feel. I mean, I've been doing this work, been voicing all these things since I was a student, started out in 2008. Yes, there have been things that have changed, and I'm happy for that, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. I will say that my experience as a student was no different as my experience as a professor. I dealt with the same thing. I had campus police called on me as a student. I had it happen as a professor. So it's just, things are hard, and I want to see things change. So I thank you for people for lending their voices and stories. I've had so many people inbox me stories that I couldn't get to. I know a lot of people have been re-traumatized for speaking out and have so many things to work through. So I just want to say that make sure that people are taking care of themselves. If you can get therapy, but there's still so much work that needs to be done. Like I said, self-care, taking care of yourself. I hope these conversations do not end. They need to continue, but it's not just about the conversation, what actions are going to take place, because there are small things that can lead into big things. And like I said, people have been speaking up about these things. The voices have been there. And like I said, I'm not trying to discredit anything that anybody has done. So thank you to Tatiana and other people, and Liz Ortiz, Tammy Bean, in the past, Kimza Glass, all these people who have been advocating for us, have been speaking up for students and other faculty to make sure that these things change. I speak out because I don't want anybody else to have to experience the things that I did. 3 years later, I'm still dealing with the same trauma. So it has not been easy. So thank you, Shamar.
I want everybody who I've came in contact with voices to be heard. I love you dearly, Jade. I love you dearly, Antoinette. I'm a little biased with people I'm talking about right now. Fatima, Rakia, all of you all. I love Shanae, Javara. There's so many. My sisters who do not attend a college anymore, who did not graduate. This one is definitely for you all. Dr. Martin put in the comments, and I'm going to end right here. It is also important to make sure that the people who raise the real problems they're experiencing do not become scapegoated as the problem instead of addressing the actual problems. And I'll say it one more time. I appreciate everybody. It is also important to make sure that the people who raise the real problems they're experiencing do not become scapegoated as the problem instead of addressing the actual problems. Again, President Meade, I appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. I just wrote you recently your birthday on LinkedIn. I was like, oh man, like that. But I'm glad like we can have an open conversation like I want us to be. And I want you all to take this to your families too. Like this doesn't stop here. Just one thing too. Don't judge me when I say this. White people on this, I know some of you all, like y'all are nice. I get that. I need your families, your uncles, like that gets deeper. Like, you know, the cousins that who say something and you're scared. Not you all. I hang out with you. I know you. I know y'all. That's fine. I went to school. We all took, you know,
Yes.
right. I'm talking about like these heavy conversations that we had right now. I don't know, play this back for dinner. You know, say my president just took the first step, you know, like to addressing something. So I'll end it right here. Dr. Martin, I'm gonna keep bringing her name up, is my favorite. Look that website up, bookmark it. Jade, Tony, everybody, I appreciate you all. You all know where to find me on social media now. Sham is not my real name. It is Shamara Rhodes, but I gotta switch my government now as an adult in the work I do. But I appreciate you all. President Meade, do you have any final words?
Really just to thank everybody. I am always happy to talk to alums. My open office hours are for alums. Shamara, if you're driving through Allentown, do come on campus and stop in and see if I'm here. I have had alums stop in. I love it. I will always make time for every alum of Cedar Crest. I want to hear your voices. I want to lead change. And I will, because I don't want to make empty promises or statements, just will let you know I've been having deep conversations with our board chair, and the board of trustees will be talking in depth and detail and coming up with an action plan of their own to address some of these issues. And it really has to go from the top to the bottom and all the way through.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me participate today.
Thank you. Just really quick a response to that. Do the alum, like, do we get like a visual of the action plan, like after that's made, or it's like, how does that, the follow up with that?
Everything we've done, Shamara, since I've been president has been very, very transparent. And so.
I know what the board does. I was just saying for the people who don't.
You were on the board, though I wasn't president then. But yeah, so absolutely. So I can't speak for the board, but their method of operation has been to be public about things like task forces. We have one running now for COVID-19. The plans will be public. Who's participating has been public. And so that is absolutely the modus operandi of this board. And I feel certain that that will be available to everybody and that we will call upon the considerable expertise in this room here, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cedar Crest. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Alrighty.
Thank you.